Hey everybody, this is Professor Jason Snart. I'm your instructor for our English 2250 Intro to Creative Writing class, which is online here. You'll have to forgive me, my voice has really kind of hit the end of the road here at the end of a cold and after a long day of talking a lot. But I wanted to record this really quick little video intro, which is both me but also our course, which you can see here, or at least my screen, as a way of both welcoming you to the course and hoping that you have a good time with it and you learn a lot and you get to do a lot of, well, basically a lot of writing. I mean, a lot of hands-on, actual practical writing. The nice thing about the Intro to Creative Writing course is that we cover a number of different genres. So we write short story, we do creative nonfiction, we do poetry. So you have lots of opportunities to do different kinds of writing. The downside, I suppose, is that we don't spend a lot of time on each of those because we have to move through each of them fairly quickly. But you get a really nice kind of exposure to lots of different kinds of writing. So before I get too much into the course part of it, let me just kind of point us to how our course works here. So you'll probably be watching this in the announcements area and maybe have already seen this early welcome. Our course, or our term I should say, starts somewhat awkwardly on Saturday, January 23rd, I think it would be. So you may be here on the weekend. Some people might not be here until Monday, but technically our term did start on the Saturday. But anyway. Okay, so we have our syllabus area where you can find kind of basic stuff you'd expect, like a generic course description, the catalog description, course goals, our textbook, of course, that's important information, and a few of the course policies. So pretty, general syllabus-y type things. It's all here. There's nothing that you have to print out as a paper document, so it's all online here in Blackboard. The rules of creative writing we'll get to in a slightly later unit. It's one of the sort of foundational things that we'll do, but not quite just yet. And so primarily the way our course works is that we work through a series of units, all in these little folders here. You can usually guess what kinds of things we might be doing based on the title of the unit here. And then we also we coordinate the units with our due date. So this isn't an independent study. It's not like a flex class where you move at your own pace or anything like that. We always have due dates. So again, awkwardly, Saturday being our first day. So our first due date then is Unit 1, Tuesday, January 6th. So it's always good, of course, to be aware of, the immediate due date, right? But also kind of how things move. So one of the things that I invite you to do before we really get into the work of a single unit here is to develop a sense of how the course works kind of overall, That's again why I'm walking you through some of this, hoping that you'll take some time to just sort of poke around, honestly, That's why I opened the course up a little bit early, and I'm hoping that people will get in here on maybe the Friday when I opened it, over the weekend, or certainly at the latest on the Monday. Again, I think it's really, really key to being successful, kind of generally, but online especially, to just feel comfortable in the class, right, before trying to take on the content of the class or complete individual assignments. So we have our set of due dates here. We work as a class. There's lots of interaction amongst classmates. So you're doing discussion boards, you're sharing work, you're providing feedback, all stuff that we'll talk about as part of the course. But again, it's not a self-paced, it's not independent, like an independent study. And in fact, the reason that I do this kind of a thing, rather than just leave it all up sort of as text on Blackboard, is so that you feel sort of connected to me too, like I'm a real person here in a real office. You can send me emails, we can Skype or Google Hangout or connect that way. You'll have lots of opportunity to meet your classmates virtually and interact with them. So there's due dates, we feel like a class. There's actual people involved, we feel like a class. I really hope that it helps you connect with the content, of course, but really with other people. So this is like a learning community of learners that we really develop here. And especially with writing, because it's sort of like it can be a sort of personal thing that it either is literally personal stuff you're writing about, or you're just sort of personally invested in it being good. It makes sense that you'd want to trust that there's real people out there who are just as invested as you. So anyway, we have our set of deadlines here. Notice that I've literally highlighted that for discussion boards, there's kind of a split due date system. So anytime you're doing an initial post, right, due by noon on the due date, and then replies due by the end of the day. It's not a huge difference, but at least it makes sure, helps to get people, enough people doing those initial posts that if there's a post and reply kind of a situation, that if you post early, you're not then waiting until the last possible minute for other people to post so that you can reply. So it's meant to sort of help with that problem a little bit. Okay, so we have our due dates. You'll see they're all laid out here. We try to get into a bit of a regular pattern, that we keep, sort of a Tuesday, Thursday situation. So again, part of your success is often figuring out like when you're going to do your online work and knowing, given the due dates that are coming up, what like pockets of time will work for you. So it's flexible in that sense, but again, it's not flexible in the sense that you do all the work now or you wait or anything else. Some people have some strange notions about how online classes work. Okay, so the due dates is really like your main link here, especially as we get underway, so that you get a sense of like what's coming up and when things are due. And then of course the units is, where the actual work is. So we'll take a quick little look at Unit 1 here, which is really not so much a creative writing unit, although you are writing and it's probably going to be creative, so it's funny how that captures a lot of stuff, right? It's really just a unit about us getting to know each other. It's an introductions unit. So in each of the unit folders, you'll often find our objectives for that unit. You might find like a reading or an activity or a video from me or a different kind of video or the learning part of it. But be aware that there oftentimes will be other units. So I try not to embed too many folders so you get so deep down the rabbit hole you don't even know where you are anymore. But also, if I laid it all out, it would just get so long, it would be sort of confusing that way. So I try to strike a balance between not burying things, but also not having it just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and try to find things. So there's a little questionnaire that you can complete right here in Blackboard. It's a Google form. If you've ever used those before, they're great. But you do it right here in Blackboard. It's, again, having nothing to do with creative writing per se, but just your sense of what it means to take an online class. Do you have any worries or concerns? Are you ready sort of from a technical standpoint? And it's not like you have to lie if you don't think you are. This is your chance to sort of alert me that maybe you're a little bit unsure or you have this that might be a challenge or whatever, and then we work on that together. So it's not certainly not graded. So just be honest with me on that. And if everything's cool, then everything's cool. That's great too. So we have a couple of different assignments that you're doing, broken out into these folders here. The first, creating your student homepage, which is actually a lot simpler than it might at first seem. It's all within Blackboard. You don't need any special software or really any special knowledge or anything like that. The instructions here hopefully walk you through exactly how to get it started and what to do. Again, part of our early unit here is really just like getting comfortable in Blackboard, especially if it's a system you've never used before. Now is where we can fumble through a little bit so that we're much more efficient as we go into later units, where you don't want to be concerned with the tech part of it. You want to be doing the actual stuff for the course. So here you're just introducing yourself. There's some kind of corny questions that I've asked. If you want to answer those, you can just talk about yourself in a couple paragraphs. Again, it's creative writing, so get creative. The big part though is to make sure you provide a picture of yourself. It doesn't need to be formal. It can just be like simple, but it's really important that we get to see each other, not face to face necessarily, but like as actual people. Make sure that if it's a group shot, you tell us who you are. Some people sort of forget that part of it, so they'll post them and their sister, but we're not really sure which is you. So be sure you point that out, and make sure that you do this so that the image shows up in the post itself, not just as a file that you've attached, but again following the directions here. So it's really important that we get to see all the people that are in our class. Okay, so remember, we're in this folder, so just because we finished this doesn't mean we finished all the work for the unit. So we always want to go backwards and find out if there's other stuff, and hey, there is. And it's kind of a duplicate assignment. You're introducing yourself again, but the point is that we also use a discussion board, which is going to be one of our main tools that we use in Blackboard, here in a really straightforward, low-stakes way. So again, some different questions. You don't have to provide a picture here. You are responding to at least 2 other posts, so there's that aspect to it. And you're just introducing yourself again. Don't just cut and paste from one assignment to the other. That's like lame, so don't do that. But I get it. It's kind of the same activity, but again, we're in a creative writing class, so do it creatively. But part of the point, like I said, is just so that everybody gets the experience of using the discussion board, which is going to be a main tool that we use early on, right out of the gate. And you're not trying to figure out some course content like applying an idea or writing a story or doing something else and trying to figure out how the technology works. So it's a sort of low stakes, hopefully straightforward kind of thing. If you have problems with tech, with any questions about the course, with whatever, just be in touch with me. Again, I'm like a real person here in a real office. It's not a green screen thing. I'm not in Hawaii. God, poof. So hopefully you feel like you can get comfortable in the course of where things are, what the expectations are. You'll begin to meet your classmates as we work through Unit 1. And of course, you know that I'm here to support you in being successful in the course, learning something, being able to do some great writing, and have some fun. You know, God forbid we have fun doing this, right? So I'm going to leave it at that. Welcome to the course. And again, if you have any questions, be in touch with me.